My daughter-in-law tried to kill me with a birthday present. Before you think, I'd never fall for that. Give me 10 minutes. If this makes you side-eye a thoughtful gift in your own kitchen, that little jolt might save you. And if you like hearing how women my age stop being polite and start being dangerous, you know where the like button lives. My 67th birthday was a wet Tuesday in Surrey. Nothing special. The doorbell went just before lunch. On the step sat a black gift bag with a satin ribbon and a satisfying weight. Inside was a bottle of Bordeaux, deep green glass and gold foil. The sort of label that makes people say good year without knowing why. The cream card on top said, in Ashley's flawless, fake whimsical cursive, "To my second mum, you deserve something special. Drink this tonight and think of us. Love, Ashley XX." On paper, it was sweet. In my gut, something twitched. The phone rang before I'd put the card down. Ashley didn't do anything generous without commentating it. "Did it come?" she blurted. "Not even hello. You have to open it today. Margaret, promise me you'll pour yourself a proper glass and enjoy it." I reminded her, calmly, that my GP had banned alcohol with my blood pressure tablets. She'd been there when he said it. "One glass won't kill you." She laughed. "Red wine's good for your heart. You never treat yourself." It wasn't the words that bothered me. It was the push. Real concern usually leaves room for no. This felt like a script. I carried the bottle into the kitchen, set it on the counter. It looked beautiful. It also felt like it had a little circle of tension around it. "I might save it," I said. "Linda's coming for lunch tomorrow. I'll open it with her." I dropped Linda's name without thinking. To everyone else, she was Ashley's adoring mum from 2 doors down. Wheeled out for church. Christmas. Instagram. Ashley's tone snapped. "Don't give it to Mum," she said, too fast, then tried to laugh it off. "She only likes cheap stuff. It'd be wasted on her." Her words were jokey. The panic underneath was not. After we hung up, the house felt oddly centered around that single bottle. I noticed silly details. The foil at the neck had a tiny crimp, as if it had been lifted and smoothed back. The label sat a touch crooked. On their own, nothing. Put beside the things Ashley had been saying lately. You must rattle round in that big house. Old people sitting on money are selfish. Their kids could do so much with that. They started to look like clues. I still told myself I was being dramatic. That's how women like me get killed. By the way we talk ourselves out of our own instincts because we don't want to be rude. Would you have done any better? Honestly, the next day Linda turned up for lunch in her usual cardigan, hair wind-fluffed, clutching daffodils and a packet of biscuits. "Happy birthday, you old cow," she said fondly. We ate quiche, gossiped about the neighbors, tutted at the news. The bottle waited on the counter, watching us. "Is that the posh wine from our Ashley?" she asked eventually, smiling. She was very pleased with herself. "That's the one," I said. "She wants me to open it." "Then Linda said, "We might as well drink the good stuff while we're still here. Here's the fork in the road. Tip it down the sink and look unhinged. Or pour it and risk being wrong. Be honest with yourself. Which way would you actually go? With a friend beaming at you across your own table. I chose what felt like a compromise. I opened the bottle. The cork came out clean. The wine smelt normal. I poured Linda a modest glass. Then I poured myself the tiniest splash, tipped it straight down the sink, rinsed the glass and filled it with water. "Doctor's orders," I said lightly. Linda rolled her eyes and took a sip. "Oh, that is nice," she said. "She's done well." We went back to chatting. 10 minutes. 15. Linda's cheeks warmed. Her laugh loosened. Was that the wine? Or just company? I watched her out of the corner of my eye and told myself I was being ridiculous. Around 20 minutes after her first sip, my phone rang on the sideboard. Ashley flashed up. I stepped into the hallway. Hi, love. Have you had it? She cut in. No, hello. Her voice was high, tight. Have you drunk the wine? Tell me the truth. No, I said. Linda's here. She's had a glass. Silence. I could hear her breathing. When she spoke again, the sweetness had gone. How much, she demanded. Exactly how much has she had? When did she start drinking it? I need the time. Not is she enjoying it, not are you having a nice lunch. Dose and timing. Half a glass, I said slowly. About 20 minutes ago. Why? A small, strangled noise, then a whisper. Don't let her have any more. The line went dead. I stood there with the phone against my ear, listening to nothing, feeling my pulse in my teeth. In the dining room, Linda called. Everything all right? Her voice sounded a shade thicker. That was the moment fear finally outweighed my terror of causing a scene. I sat opposite her again. Her hand trembled as she lifted the glass. Her pupils looked too big. Linda, I said, keeping my voice level. Humor me. Has Ashley ever told you where she got this wine? She frowned. Said online somewhere. Asked why. So I told her quickly. The card. The pressure to make me drink despite my tablets. The snap when I mentioned sharing it. The last call, demanding exact timings. Saying it all in one run made my own skin crawl. The color drained from Linda's face. She wouldn't, she whispered. Margaret, she's my daughter. She can be selfish, but she's not that. I'm not staking your life on probably not, I said. How do you feel? A bit off, she admitted. Probably nerves. That was enough. I rang 111. Try calmly telling a stranger that your daughter-in-law might have poisoned your neighbor and see how sane you feel. I apologized, explained what had happened, mentioned antifreeze, dragged from some half-remembered documentary. The call handler's tone changed. Right. Margaret, she said, hang up and call 999 for an ambulance. Keep the bottle. Don't let your friend drink any more. 10 minutes later, we were in the back of an ambulance. Linda, pale and sweating on the trolley. The Bordeaux sealed in a clear bag. A and E was all strip lights and hard chairs. Nurses took bloods. Started a drip. Moved quickly. Which scared me more than any words. A doctor called Dr. Williams listened to the story. Jaw tight. Then took the bottle to the lab. Is she going to be all right? I asked him in the corridor, fingers digging into the railing. We've caught it early, he said. If this is what we think, time is on her side. Waiting was its own torture. Sitting there, I had nothing to distract me from my thoughts. Ashley's interest in my tablets and GP appointments, her questions about my house and will, her throwaway lines about old people sitting on money, and 3 weeks earlier, me in a solicitor's office, updating my will after a neighbor's stroke, adding a little clause on a dark whim if I died under suspicious circumstances. Everything skipped family and went straight to charity. I'd joked, if anyone bumps me off for the house, they'll be furious. In that hospital chair, it stopped being funny. If I died peacefully, Kevin, and by extension Ashley, got the lot. If I died messily, with police involved, she got nothing. If she had tried to kill me, she'd gone to all that trouble without understanding the small print. Oddly, that thought steadied me. Whatever else she wasn't as clever as she thought. Just after 6, Dr. Williams came back. We've found ethylene glycol in the wine and in Linda's blood, he said. It's a component of antifreeze. She's had enough to make her very unwell, but we've started the antidote in time. We're optimistic. Linda whispered Ashley's name and turned her face away. We have to inform the police, he added. This is a suspected poisoning. Fear turned into something sharper. While nurses moved, I stepped into a quiet corner and rang my nephew Danny, who happens to be a detective sergeant. I gave him the bare bones birthday bottle. Ashley's calls. Antifreeze. Hospital. His voice went calm and clipped. Don't let anyone take that bottle except an officer, he said. Text me the hospital. I'll get CID on it. And don't contact Ashley. By the time my son Kevin arrived, gray-faced, there was already a uniform at the nurse's station and a woman in plain clothes waiting with a notebook. Mum, what is going on? He demanded. Ashley says you're accusing her of. Ashley says a lot of things. I cut in. The woman introduced herself as Detective Inspector Sarah Murphy. She sat us in a small relative's room that smelt of instant coffee, opened her notebook and let me talk. I told them everything, from the gift bag to the lab result. Kevin's face went from denial to shock as his own memories lined up, Ashley fussing over my tablets, joking about one day this will all be yours, asking what my house was worth. She wouldn't hurt you, he said, but there wasn't much conviction left. Your mum mentioned she changed her will recently, D.I. Murphy asked. I nodded. If I die peacefully, he and Ashley get everything. I said, if I die and someone like you thinks it looks off, it all goes to charity. I don't think she read that bit. I watched that land in him. D.I. Murphy closed her notebook. Mrs. Henderson, we're treating this as a serious offense, she said. We'll seize the bottle as evidence and take full statements. We'll also need to speak to Ashley as soon as possible. Do you think she meant to kill me? I asked. Saying it out loud felt strange, like reading someone else's case on the news. I think someone deliberately put antifreeze in a good bottle of wine and made sure it ended up in your kitchen, she said. If that person realizes we know, they might run or they might escalate. For now, you don't confront her. You don't hint. You don't post. You act as if nothing happened and you let us look at her properly. Because if this is what it looks like, I doubt this is her first attempt. Something cold and steady settled in my chest. I was terrified. Yes, but under the fear there was fury. And under that, resolve. All right, I said. If she wants a game, she's picked the wrong old woman. That was the night I stopped imagining my own obituary and started thinking about how to bring her down. If someone in your family did this, truly, how far would you go? The next morning I had to sit across from my would-be killer and smile. You ever had to act normal around someone you're suddenly sure is dangerous, let me know. Because that performance takes years off your life. D.I. Murphy's warning had been very clear. We were still in that family room in A&E when she said it. For now, she told Kevin, you answer Ashley's calls. You don't accuse her. You don't hint about antifreeze. You let her play the concerned wife. If she thinks we're on to her, she might run or she might do something stupid. We'd rather catch her than chase her. Kevin looked sick. You want me to pretend everything's fine? I want you alive, she said. That means not provoking her until we've seen what she's been up to. Ashley rang while we were still talking. Her name lit up Kevin's phone. That cheery little picture of her in a sundress grinning at some barbecue. He stared at it like it might explode. Put it on speaker, Murphy said quietly. Answer it. He did. Hey, Ash. Her voice came out syrupy and thin. Kev, where are you? I've been calling your mum. She's not picking up. Is she sulking or something? She's at the hospital with Linda, he said. That much was true. A little gasp. Perfect pitch. Oh my God. Is Mum okay? What's happened? I can come straight there. Kevin looked at Murphy. She shook her head. No, don't, he said. They're just keeping an eye on her. Probably nothing. It's all a bit chaotic. You know what hospitals are like. Ashley launched into fussing questions. What ward? Which hospital? Was I all right? But they all had the same undertone control. She wanted coordinates. She wanted visibility. I'll bring soup. She said, I'll come sit with you. Honestly, Ash, there's no need, Kevin said, voice wobbling. They're not letting loads of visitors in anyway. I'll keep you posted. All right? She didn't like that. I could hear it in the tiny pause. But she couldn't very well insist. Okay, she said at last, in that wounded tone she used when she wanted to make you feel guilty. Give Mum my love. Tell her I'm praying for Linda. When he hung up, his hands were shaking. What if she comes anyway, he muttered. She won't risk walking into a building full of police, doctors and CCTV if she knows that bottle's being tested. Murphy said, but just in case, I'll get uniform at the entrance. It's odd what you remember from days like that. Not the big things, the antifreeze, the detectives, but the sound of Ashley's fake concern spilling out of a little black rectangle while Linda lay wired up down the corridor. Her kidneys, fighting off her daughter's love. We didn't go home that night. I insisted on sleeping in the little recliner by Linda's bed. When I did drift off, I dreamt of red wine turning into bright blue coolant as it poured. By morning, Linda was more stable, talking in spurts. At one point, when the nurse was out changing a drip, she said, very quietly, if you're right about my Ashley, I don't know who I am. Margaret, I squeezed her hand. We're going to find out who she is. I said, properly. Then we'll decide what to call her. Have you ever realized someone you loved might just be a mask? It's a special kind of grief, and I watched it start in her eyes. Later that day, D.I. Murphy asked me to make a call. I'd like you to ring Ashley. She said, casual tone. Tell her the hospital want to log where the wine came from. See what she says. I'll be recording. So I did. I rang Ashley while sitting on the plastic chair by Linda's bed, watching the drip tick. Hi. Love, I said when she answered. Just a quick one. The doctor's filling in some form about that fancy Bordeaux. You know what the NHS is like. Wants to know where you bought it. A beat of silence. You could hear her brain scrambling. Oh, just a wine shop, she said. In town? What's it called? I asked, as if I was only being nosy. I might have a look. I can't remember, she said. One by the big Tesco? Or maybe it was online. Look, I've got to run. Funny, I said lightly. You were very keen. I drink it straight away for something you can't remember buying. Her voice sharpened. Are you saying I did something wrong? I'm saying the hospital likes to know these things, I replied. They mentioned the police might pop round. Ask everyone routine questions. You know what they're like. She inhaled sharply. The police? Just routine, I repeated. Anyway, must dash. They're doing Linda's obs. I hung up before she could recover. It was petty. That tiny bit of needling, but I won't pretend it didn't satisfy me. Murphy listened back to the recording later, lips thinning. 3 different answers in 30 seconds. She said, she's panicking. Ashley came into the station for a voluntary chat the next morning. I wasn't there, obviously, but Danny told me the broad strokes. She turned up in full performance mode, he said later over my kitchen table, scrolling through his notes. Soft cardigan, no makeup. Pour me eyes, brought biscuits. For the officers, classic Ashley, poison you one day, bake you cookies the next. According to him, her story kept sliding about. First, she said she'd bought the wine at a boutique place in Guildford. Then, when asked for the name, she switched to, oh, actually, it was this little independent in London, cash only. When they offered to look at her bank statements to jog her memory, she suddenly claimed she'd paid cash because cards are so insecure these days. When they asked to see her phone for any confirmation emails or photos, she smiled and said she'd lost it at the gym. Phone, purse, keys, she said, always losing something. Funny thing, Danny said The lost phone still showed up on the network that afternoon, pinging off phone masts near your house. Not a criminal mastermind. They let her go after that. You can't lock someone up just for being shifty, but her mask had slipped enough for CID to start digging. They ran her name through everything they could, PNC, old council records, credit checks. That's when the first cracks appeared. Did you know she wasn't registered as living with any parent called Linda Morrison? Murphy asked me that evening. I shook my head. She told Kevin her dad died when she was at uni, and Linda moved down here to be nearer. According to the records, there is no birth for an Ashley Morrison with a mother called Linda anything, she said, but there is an Ashley Winters, born in Birmingham, same date of birth, who disappears off the electoral roll about 10 years ago and reappears as Ashley Bradley in another part of the country. Katie from book club once said the internet never forgets. She was right. It also gossips if you know how to listen. While all that was going on behind the scenes, Ashley was putting on a different show at home. Kevin told me about it later. He got back from the station and found her in the kitchen, half a suitcase open on the table, clothes neatly folded, tears already in her eyes. I can't stay here if your mum thinks I tried to hurt her, she said. It's toxic. Kevin, I'll go to my sister's for a bit till she calms down. Kevin froze. Sister, he said. You haven't seen your sister in years. She needs me, Ashley replied. There's a family emergency in Newcastle. You don't know everything about my childhood. He'd always backed off when she pulled that line before. This time, armed with Murphy's quiet hints and his own gut, he pushed. You told me you were an only child, he said. She snapped the suitcase shut. Are you calling me a liar? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. An hour later, while he was in the shower, she left. By the time he noticed, the car was gone. Murphy's team found it the next day at the coach station. Locked. No sign of her. Inside parking tickets, a half-empty bottle of mineral water, and her laptop bag. She walked away from her own car, Murphy said, flipping through photos on her tablet in my living room. Didn't report it stolen. Didn't get on any official coach under her name. That's not a scared innocent. That's someone on the run. When the digital forensics lads got into her laptop, that was when the story stopped being family drama and turned into true crime. Murphy came round with Danny one afternoon, both of them looking grimly satisfied. We've been busy, she said, setting her folder on my dining table. We thought you deserved to know what we've found so far. They showed me printouts, a spreadsheet with my name at the top. Margaret Henderson. Opportunities. In the left column, dates. In the right, notes. Thursday always Tesco, 10 am. No CCTV in alley by car park. Summer, uses garden hose. Drinks from glass in shed. Night, takes tablets with water by bed. Often half asleep. My skin crawled seeing my life laid out like that. Every boring habit turned into a potential death scene. A separate tab was labeled Plans. Plan 1, food test, biscuits. Plan 2, tablets, swap BP meds. Plan 3, garden water, contamination. Plan 4, wine. I thought back to the homemade cookies she'd brought 3 weeks earlier, the 2 days I'd spent doubled over in the bathroom, insisting to the GP it must be a bug. I'd even messaged her afterwards. Think those biscuits didn't agree with me with a crying, laughing emoji. I showed Murphy my phone. She whistled softly. Looks like Plan 1 didn't quite do the job, she said, so she upped her game. There was more. Old emails under different surnames, Ashley Bradley discussing probate with a solicitor after the sudden heart attack of her husband Thomas, aged 34. Ashley Chen sending instructions about a quick cremation for her beloved Marcus, dead of kidney complications. Insurance documents with payout figures. Mortgage transfers. Each time, Ashley the beneficiary. Each time, a man in his 30s convenient dead. Each time, a new town, a new start. And Linda, I asked, throat tight. Murphy's eyes softened. Her name isn't on any birth record as Ashley's mother, she said. We think Ashley met her at church years ago, played the lonely daughter card, and never let go. Linda, asleep in her hospital bed, had photos of her girl on the bedside locker. Kindergarten-age Ashley, gap-toothed and grinning, except that girl was probably Ashley Winters, before she learnt how profitable grief could be. If you were Linda, would you want to know the full truth? Or would you cling to the lie that hurt less? I still don't know the kindest answer. The coup de grace came from a name in Ashley's contact list, Sarah Williams. She was listed as a personal reference on an old rental application. Murphy said, We rang her. Sarah turned out to be Marcus Chin's sister. She'd watched her fit, marathon running brother waste away while his solicitous wife insisted it was stress and overdoing it, canceled GP appointments, and pushed for him to rest at home. By the time he collapsed and was taken to hospital, his kidneys were failing. Ashley made sure he was cremated within days. She told us she always thought something was off. Murphy said, but without proof, what can you do? Now we've got your wine, your spreadsheet, his decline. CPS are interested. I should have been horrified. I was, on some level, but over it all was this fierce, cold satisfaction. She wasn't just going to be the woman who almost killed my neighbor. She was going to be exposed as what she truly was, a serial killer in Topshop knitwear. The question was how to catch her. Murphy sat back, fingers steepled. We think Ashley is watching, she said. She hasn't used her bank cards, but her online accounts are still occasionally active. She's probably checking the news, social media, seeing if her name's out there. If she sees herself called a murderer, she'll vanish properly. Danny added, different country, new identity, job in cash, gone. So we don't shout murderer, Murphy said. We whisper forgiveness. Her plan was simple and horrible. Kevin would post on Facebook, public, visible to the world, saying he didn't believe Ashley meant any harm, that he missed her, that he just wanted to talk. We'd paint me as the overreacting old bat and him as the loyal husband, feed her ego, lure her out. I hated it. I also loved it. That was the moral gray bit, using my own son's heartbreak as bait. Would you have agreed to that? In my shoes. Kevin stared at the drafted post on his phone for a long time. I know my wife would never hurt my mum on purpose, he read. I can't type that. You're not saying it because it's true, I said quietly. You're saying it because she needs to believe someone still buys the act. If it brings her out where they can see her, it's worth it. He swallowed, nodded, and hit post. We watched it go live, a little blue thumbs up world. Friends started reacting. Thinking of you. Mate. Hope it all gets sorted. Ashley's church acquaintances chimed in with prayers. Hours went by. The post slid down the feed. I started to think she'd seen through it, that she was too clever, too cynical, to take the bait. Then late that evening, when the house was quiet and the sky outside was that bruised purple just before full dark, Kevin's phone pinged. His face went white as he read the notification. Is it her? I whispered. He turned the screen so I could see. A new message request from an old account we'd never seen before. No profile picture, just a gray silhouette. The name on it was the one from the record's Ashley Winters. The message said, I knew you'd believe me. Meet me where it all began. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Miller's Pond. Come alone. And that was when I realized the spider wasn't just stuck in her own web. She was inviting my son right into the middle of it. You'd come and hear what she said next. Wouldn't you? The night my son walked into that trap at Miller's Pond, I sat in a police van listening to his heart try not to break. If that already makes your stomach knot, imagine being his mother with a set of headphones and no way to reach him. Would you have let him go, honestly, or chained him to the radiator? As soon as that message from Ashley Winters pinged through, * meet me where it all began. Miller's Pond. Come alone. * D.I. Murphy switched gears. No more gentle explanations. Just orders. We're taking this, she said. It's our best chance to get her on tape. We were back at the station. A bland briefing room full of maps and coffee cups. Kevin sat hunched in a plastic chair, phone on the table in front of him like a bomb. I don't want to see her again, he said. I don't even know who she is. Murphy softened her voice. Kevin, she's already tried to kill your mum and Linda. We have strong evidence she's killed at least 2 husbands before you. We now have her reaching out to you. If we do this carefully, we get her confession. We prove the pattern, and we stop her doing this to anyone else. And if she brings a gun, he asked, she won't be the only one armed. One of the firearms officers said quietly from the wall. That made it worse, not better. They laid the plan out in simple beats, like you'd explain it to a nervous actor. Kevin would meet Ashley at the bench by the water where he'd proposed. He'd wear a wire under his shirt, a little black pack at the small of his back, tape on his chest, picking up every word, every breath. There'd be plainclothes officers around the path, a firearms team tucked back behind the trees, unmarked cars at each exit lane. And me, I asked. You'll be in the van with me, listening, Murphy said. You're a witness and a victim, Mrs. Henderson, not bait. You've done your part. She meant it kindly, but I hated it. Standing back while your child walks towards danger goes against every bone in your body. But this was the choice, control what we could, or leave Ashley free to choose her own stage. Miller's Pond at 7 p.m. in early autumn is beautiful and creepy at the same time. The water goes black before the sky does. The weeping willows turn into silhouettes. She wanted romance. She got an ambush. From the van, we watched Kevin cross the car park on a grainy live feed. Hands jammed deep in his jacket pockets. I could hear his breathing in my headphones. It was too fast. You're doing well, Murphy murmured into her mic. Just talk to her. Keep her talking. At one end of the pond, on Their Times bench, a woman stood waiting, hair pulled back in a low ponytail, jeans, parka. Even from a distance, she radiated that slightly theatrical stillness she always had, like she was aware of how she looked from every angle. When Kevin stepped into view, she did a little run and flung herself at him with a sob. I heard the impact of her body, his automatic, careful, as they staggered. Oh, Kevin, she wailed. I've missed you so much. It sounded genuine. That's the thing about people like Ashley. They can believe their own performance while they're doing it. It's not acting. It's shape-shifting. She launched straight into the script, how she'd been terrified since the accident with the wine, how she'd panicked when she heard the word police, how she'd run because she knew I hated her and would twist everything. I would never hurt your mum on purpose, she said, voice thick with tears. You know that. Tell them it was a mistake. In the van, I clenched my fists so hard my nails bit skin. Kevin let her talk herself out, then asked, very quietly, so where did you buy it? Then she hesitated. A shop, she said. In town. I told you. What's it called? He pushed. She tried 3 different names in 10 seconds. The officers in the van exchanged looks. They'd already checked. None of them existed. Funny that, Kevin said, because the police checked all the off-licenses in Surrey for that bottle and batch number, and not one of them sold it. And they found your spreadsheet. Silence. I could almost hear her pupils narrowing. What spreadsheet? She asked. The one with my mum's name at the top, he said, and the word opportunities, garden hose, tablets, wine, plans 1 to 4. Whose idea was that? There's a point where a liar realizes the lie has snapped and there's nothing underneath. Some go to pieces. Ashley didn't. She just changed masks. All right, she said, and suddenly her voice was very flat. You want the truth. Your mum is a spiteful old cow who's been trying to ruin me since the day we met. She'd love nothing more than to see me behind bars. You think that spreadsheet means anything, it's just thoughts. I never actually did anything. In the van, Murphy's hand hovered over the go button. Not yet, she muttered. Come on, Ashley. Show us who you are. Kevin surprised me then. He didn't shout, didn't crack. He just said, in the same quiet, shaking voice, they also found Thomas Bradley and Marcus Chen, and a Sarah Williams who says you watched her brother die while you stopped him seeing a doctor. How many husbands is this now? Ashley. There was the faint scrape of the bench as she stood up abruptly. When she spoke, the faux victim tone had gone. You sound just like your mother, she hissed. Thomas was weak. Marcus worked himself into the ground. I didn't kill them. I just didn't save them. There's a difference. My skin crawled. In front of me, one of the officer's pens snapped in his hand. She kept going, almost enjoying it now. How life had ground her down when she was young. How she'd realized men with money were walking solutions. How insurance policies were just logic. Each husband framed as a job. Thomas's heart tablets adjusted. Marcus's herbal teas enriched. And what about Kevin, my son asked, voice suddenly very small. What was I? There was a tiny pause, and then she laughed, soft, indulgent, like he'd asked a silly question. You were the retirement plan, she said. All that money sitting in that ugly old house of your mother's, and you working yourself stupid while she hoards it. Someone had to make use of it. Her choice of tense hit me like a throat punch. Asterisk. We're asterisk. And how exactly were you going to make use of it, Kevin asked. You really haven't noticed, she said. God, you are slow. All those little heart flutters, the dizzy spells, the insomnia. You think that was stress. I've been helping things along. There was a rustle, as if she'd reached for something in his clothing. All those coffees I made you, she said. Such a devoted wife. Digitalis in tiny doses. Barely more than a whisper. Enough to nudge your heart the wrong way. Not enough for your precious doctor to spot. One day you'd drop dead on a run or in the shower, and everyone would say, how tragic, so young. And I'd cry on cue and your mother would finally be out of my way. In the van, every head snapped towards the medical liaison officer. Did she just say digitalis? Murphy demanded. He was already on his feet. If he's been dosed over time, he'll have elevated levels, he said. He needs testing tonight. That was our threshold. Ashley had just confessed, on tape, to ongoing poisoning and multiple murders. Murphy hit the button. Armed units, move. Now, outside, through the camera. I watched dark figures unfold from behind trees and parked cars, moving in towards the bench. Ashley must have seen something shift. Her voice snapped high again. What are you doing? She shouted. Kevin, what have you done? Police, someone yelled. Ashley Winters. Don't move. Keep your hands where we can see them. She didn't. Of course she didn't. From her bag, practical, crossbody, the kind every woman carries, she produced a small black handgun. Everything in the van went into a sort of slow motion. Someone swore. Another officer shouted, weapon into his mic. On the audio, there was the metallic scrape of the gun coming free. Kevin's panicked. Ashley. No. She didn't aim at the police. She aimed at him. You stupid. Useless man, she screamed. You've ruined everything. Then there was the deafening crack of 2 shots almost on top of each other. For a second, I thought she'd blown his chest out. I actually grabbed the edge of the monitor. When the dust cleared on the feed, Kevin was on the ground clutching his shoulder, swearing. Alive. Ashley was sprawled half on the path, a dark bloom spreading on her upper arm where the firearms officer had been quicker and better trained. The gun lay in the grass. I didn't realize I was crying until Murphy pulled my headphones off and said, "He's all right. Look, he's moving. He's all right." The rest of that night swims. But certain moments are still pin sharp. Kevin on a trolley in A&E, white as the sheets, but making snarky comments about the NHST. The same doctor who treated Linda now reading out Kevin's blood results with a tight jaw. "You're lucky," he said. "The bullet just went through soft tissue. We've got it cleaned and stitched." And the other thing I asked, because someone had to, he glanced at the chart. His blood tests show elevated levels of digitalis. He said, if he'd carried on as he was, he could well have gone into serious arrhythmia within weeks. We've started treatment. He should make a full recovery. Kevin stared at him, then at me. So she was killing me and I didn't notice. He said, flat. "Because you trusted her," I replied. "Trust isn't a crime. What she did is..." Ashley, meanwhile, went from A and E to a secure ward, then straight to a prison on remand as soon as they stapled her shoulder. Attempted murder of me. Attempted murder of Linda. Attempted murder of Kevin. 2 counts of murder for Thomas and Marcus once those cases were reopened. Firearms offenses. Escape risks. The list went on. CPS didn't so much sharpen their knives as wheel out the whole kitchen. I should have left it at that. Let the system grind on, but I wanted to look her in the eye. Once, without pretending to be anything other than what we were, predator and prey who'd swapped places. So a few weeks later, I asked Murphy if I could visit. "You don't have to," she said. "You owe her nothing." "I know," I said. "That's why I want to, on my terms." They arranged it at the prison hospital wing. She arrived in a standard issue tracksuit, no makeup, hair scraped back. The sling made her look almost fragile. It was the only time I ever saw her without a costume. For a moment, we just looked at each other across the little plastic table. "You wanted to see me," she said at last. "Why to gloat?" "I wanted to understand," I said. "You had chances. Jobs. Men who loved you. You could have made a life. Why this?" She smiled, and for the first time, it was close to real. "Because I grew up watching my mother count coins to afford tinned spaghetti," she said. "Because I saw men in suits walk past us like we were rubbish. Because pretty girls with brains don't have to be poor if they stop playing by the rules. Men buy us drinks, houses, rings. They promised to look after us. I just held them to it. Long term. And killing them was, what? An inconvenience, I asked. A business expense, she said lightly. You of all people should get that. Margaret, you arranged your will to punish anyone who killed you. You turned death into a financial game too. We're not that different. That made my stomach turn. I wrote a clause, I said. You wrote spreadsheets of ways to poison me. She shrugged. Semantics. You nearly beat me. You know, with that will. I was so angry when I found out. Months of planning, and it would have all been for charity. She rolled her eyes. I should have read the small print earlier. Sloppy. I suppose you thought Kevin dying would make up for it, I said. My son as consolation prize. Her gaze cooled. I thought your son dying would be a beautiful ending, she said. You with your snide little comments and your suspicious eyes. Having to watch the only person you love drop dead while everyone told you it was just one of those things. That would have been art. There it was. Not survival. Not desperation. Enjoyment. Thank you, I said quietly. She looked almost pleased. For what? For making it very clear that you don't deserve another second of my pity, I said, standing. I came, wondering if some part of you was salvageable. It isn't. She laughed, but there was a crack in it. Oh, don't worry. Margaret, she called after me as the officer opened the door. We'll see each other again. Women like us always circle back. I told myself it was just a taunt, just another performance. Months later, in a packed Crown court, I watched her stand in the dock and plead guilty to everything on the sheet, all the murders, all the attempts, after her barrister quietly explained what a full trial would look like. She didn't do it out of remorse. She did it because it spared her being called a failure in front of a jury. The judge called her cold, calculating and devoid of genuine remorse, and handed down a whole life order. No parole, no release. She went down the steps without looking back. For the first time in months, I exhaled all the way down. I walked out of that court into the watery sunshine and thought, asterisk, it's over, asterisk. I had no idea that somewhere in that certainty, I'd left just enough space for her to prove me wrong. Funny, isn't it, how we only realize where the cracks are when something nasty starts squeezing through? The night the police knocked to tell me Ashley was missing, I knew before they spoke that she'd found the crack. You know that cold drop in your stomach when you open the door and it's uniforms instead of Amazon? Multiply it by 10 and add the memory of a woman who said my son's death would have been art. That's the flavor. It was about a fortnight after the sentencing. I just started sleeping properly again 8 hours. No nightmares. No checking the locks 3 times. Then, just after 11, the doorbell went. 3 officers on the step, radios clicking, faces set. Mrs. Henderson, the sergeant, said, "We need you to come and sit down." My legs already knew what my brain was refusing to say. I led them into the living room, the silly floral cushions suddenly looking obscene. "Is it Kevin?" I asked. "Has something happened?" "It's Ashley," he said. "She's escaped." The words felt stupid, like something from a Sunday night drama, not my quiet Surrey semi. How I managed. He glanced at his notes. "She complained of severe abdominal pain this afternoon at the prison," he said. "They transferred her under escort to St. Christopher's. In A and E, she asked to use the toilet, managed to slip a handcuff, grabbed a scalpel, wounded one of the officers, and ran. She got out through the ambulance bay before the doors could be locked down. We've got units searching the woods and surrounding streets. And you're telling me this because," I asked, though I already knew. "Because when they checked the cubicle she'd been in," he said, "she'd written on the wall in blood, 'Margaret owes me a debt.' I quieted. For a second, I actually saw it. My name in smears, bright against white tiles, and my chest went tight as if someone had reached in and squeezed. I looked the sergeant straight in the face. "So she's not finished with me," I said. "Brilliant." They didn't leave me alone after that. I'll give them that much. Within an hour, there was a marked car at the end of the street, an unmarked one further down, and an officer sat in my armchair pretending to watch the late news while his eyes did slow sweeps of the windows. D.I. Murphy arrived just after midnight, hair pulled back, coat over jeans, the kind of tired that lives in the bones. "I'm so sorry. Margaret," she said. We had no indication she'd try something like this so soon. Soon I laughed, high and thin. She's been fantasizing about it since they took her down those steps. She warned me we'd circle back. Murphy didn't argue. "Listen," she said, leaning forward. "We've got her description out to every unit in the county. Border force are alerted. We're doing door-to-doors near the hospital and along the woods. She's injured. She left a lot of blood in that cubicle, so she's going to need medical supplies. That limits her options. But until we have her back, you and Kevin are not to be in your houses alone. Understood. She arranged it like a rota. Kevin would stay at mine for now. Linda, still fragile, had already been moved to a more secure rehab unit after the trial, which I was suddenly very grateful for. We got panic buttons, coded knocks, rules about not opening the door unless we'd checked via the side window. Once she realizes she hasn't killed you, Murphy said, you're not just an old target, you're unfinished business. She will either try to run far, or she'll come here. I need you prepared for both. Would you have stayed put in my place, I ask you that honestly? Would you have sold up, vanished, started over in a caravan in Cornwall? Or would you have looked at your own front door and thought, asterisk, no, you don't get to take this as well? The next week was a blur of sirens and rumors. There were sightings every 5 minutes according to Facebook. Saw her in the co-op. She's in the park. She's in my cousin's Uber, most of which turned out to be nonsense. The real ones came in drips from Murphy. We've got her on CCTV near the bus station, she said, over my kitchen table one afternoon, pushing grainy stills towards me. Ashley, hoodie up, head down, moving stiffly through the concourse. No ticket sales under any of her names. So either she nicked one or she's staying local. Another time, pharmacy in town reported someone matching her description trying to buy antibiotics with cash. No ID. She left when they asked questions. 5 minutes later, a different chemist had a shoplifted pack. Antibiotics, I said. So she's looking after that shoulder herself, which keeps her mobile. Murphy replied, but also means she's risking infection. She won't be at her best. That doesn't make her less dangerous. It makes her desperate. Kevin and I fell into a strange domestic siege. We cooked, watched rubbish telly, pretended not to jump at every car door slamming outside. At night, he slept on the sofa with a blanket, like some overgrown guard dog. He'd never admit it, but I'd hear him wake up gasping some nights, hand on his chest, checking his heartbeat as if he could feel the digitalis still clinging on. One morning, he caught me pulling the curtains back to peer out and said, Mum, we could just go. Airbnb somewhere up north for a bit. Let the police deal with this. I looked at my garden, my worn but solid fence, the line of washing that had been mine long before Ashley ever learned my name. If we run now, I said, she wins twice. She gets to scare us and she gets to define the rest of our lives. I'm tired of living like a side character in Time's Her Time story. He tried to laugh. Trust you to turn it into narrative control, he said. Then, more seriously, if staying means she comes here, I'd rather she came for me than for you. Right. Mothers don't let their children volunteer for executions. I said, we'll stay, but we'll stay smart. She wants a show. We'll give her one with a different ending. You listening now, would you have dug your heels in like that or packed the car and driven till the motor ran out? I'm genuinely curious. About 10 days after the escape, I woke at 3 a.m. with that prickling sense that something was wrong. Not a noise, a times lack times of noise. The usual background, hum. The fridge, the distant main road felt damped down, like someone had put a blanket over the world. Then the phone rang. The landline, not my mobile. No one under 70 uses the landline unless it's official or a mistake. The display showed number withheld. I picked up, heart banging. Hello. Her voice was soft and amused. Oh, good, she said. You're awake. It was like someone had opened a freezer door in my ear. I hadn't heard her for months, but my body recognized it instantly. Ashley, I said. Such a formal tone, she tutted. You sound like a bank manager. After everything we've been through. Kevin stirred in the living room. I heard the sofa creak. What do you want? I asked. forcing my voice to stay level. "Oh, all the usual," she said lightly. "Justice, revenge, a bit of fun. Mostly, I wanted to thank you for what I said, for the challenge." She replied, "I've killed men who never suspected a thing. You made me work. And then you took my nice, neat life and turned it into a circus. That annoyed me. So now I'm going to take my time with you. Like Marcus, I swallowed bile. You're not going to touch me." I said, "You're a wanted criminal limping round Surrey with a stitched-up shoulder." She laughed quietly. "You think your little patrol cars impress me?" she asked. "They go past your house every 34 minutes. Margaret, they sit at the junction at 1/4 past, 1/2 past, 1/4 to. Then they park at the top of the road and scroll their phones. You think I haven't been watching?" My skin went cold. I glanced at the clock. 3:02. The last time I'd heard tires on the road had been just before 3. "You're lying," I said. "Am I?" she murmured. "Do me a favor. Go to the back window. Have a look at your garden. Then tell me if I'm lying." Every instinct said, times no asterisk. Don't move. Don't give her anything. But curiosity and terror are twins. I put the receiver down on the sideboard without hanging up and walked through the dim hallway to the kitchen, bare feet silent on the lino. The garden looked ordinary. At first glance, the little patio, the flower beds, the ridiculous gnome my sister had bought as a joke, but at the far end, by the back gate where the fence met the alley, a shape detached itself from the darkness. Under the yellow spill of the street lamp, I saw her. Hoodie, jeans, hair scraped back, hunched slightly as if her shoulder hurt. She was thinner, paler, but the way she held herself, like the whole world was a stage she'd chosen, was exactly the same. Our eyes met through the glass. Even at that distance, I saw her smile. She lifted her good hand and wiggled her fingers in a little wave. I went back to the phone. "I see you," I said. "Good," she purred. "'Cause you're going to see a lot more of me. Here's how this is going to go. You're going to send the nice officers away. Tell them you're tired. Tell them you're going to stay with your son, and then you're going to let me in. If you don't, I disappear into the dark. And maybe I come back in a week, or a month, or a year. Maybe I go to Kevin's first. Maybe Linda. Who knows? Think of it as scheduling." She paused, then added, almost kindly, "At least this way, you get to say when." That's her cruelty in a nutshell, offer you 2 horrors and make you feel like you're choosing. I looked at the silent patrol car at the end of the road, the faint blue glint under the streetlights. I thought of Kevin asleep in the next room, the scar on his shoulder, the chemical ghosts in his bloodstream. I thought of Linda, fragile but safe in her rehab bed, unaware that the girl she still called her daughter was standing in my garden plotting sequels. I picked the receiver back up properly. "You want to play," I said. "Fine, but we'll do it my way." I hung up before she could reply. Kevin was already in the hall, eyes wide. "Was that her?" he whispered. "Yes," I said. "She's at the back gate." He moved towards the kitchen. I grabbed his arm. "No," I said, "upstairs. I'm not leaving you down here on your own." He said, "Mothers will walk into burning buildings for their kids." I snapped, "You think I'm going to hand you to her on a plate? Get upstairs. Lock yourself in my room. Call Murphy on your mobile. Tell her Ashley's here. Now, tell her to come quiet and fast." He hesitated just long enough to make my heart lurch, then nodded and took the stairs 2 at a time. I went back into the kitchen. Ashley was closer now, leaning on the fence like a neighbor popping by for sugar. The back door suddenly looked very flimsy. My hands shook as I opened the cutlery drawer. The kitchen knife I chose felt heavier than I remembered, cold and solid in my palm. I set my phone on the counter, thumb hovering over the voice recorder, an idea already forming that made me feel slightly sick and oddly exhilarated. "You wanted a private show," I murmured to the empty room. "Let's see how you like being the one under the spotlight." From the garden came the faint creak of the back gate swinging open. Somewhere down the road, an engine cut, heavy footsteps on tarmac. The game pieces were all moving, faster than I could see. When the first soft tap came at the kitchen window, I almost jumped out of my skin. "So tell me, would you have stepped towards that sound or away from it?" I stepped towards that tap on the window with a knife in my hand and a killer on the other side of the glass. If you were watching this on a screen, you'd probably be shouting, "Don't you dare," wouldn't you? It's always easier to be sensible from the sofa. The second tap was lighter, almost playful. I could see the blurred shape of her face through the net curtain, pressed to the glass. "Come on, Margaret," she sing-songed, voice muffled. "Don't make me knock all night. I've had a long day." My mobile lay on the counter beside the bread bin. I picked it up, hit record, then scrolled to Murphy's name with my thumb trembling more from adrenaline than age. One tap, speaker on, face down, under the tea towel by the fruit bowl. The green call timer started ticking. If you ever need to know what courage feels like at my age, it's mostly sick. I took a breath, stepped close enough that she could see my outline. Back doors open. I called, making my voice sound tired, defeated. "If you're coming, come on then." There was a pause, a little laugh. Then the shadow slipped away from the glass. I heard the soft squeal of the back gate, the quiet crunch of feet on the patio. The back door handle moved, slow and testing. Then a sudden violent rattle when she realized it was still locked. "Oh, naughty," she said through the wood. "You lied." I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "You know I like a twist," I said. The next sound was the sharp crack of glass. She'd picked up a plant pot and smashed a corner of the small pane beside the latch. Shards tinkled onto the mat. Her hand came through, wrapped in something, a scarf perhaps, feeling blindly for the key. I'd already taken it out and slipped it into my pocket. "Don't be pathetic," she hissed. "Open the door, Margaret, or do you want me to make a mess?" I stepped back, just out of reach. The knife felt reassuringly solid, but I had no intention of trying to win a knife fight against someone who'd already stabbed a prison officer and was running on pure hatred. "You're limping," I called. "You sure you want to risk climbing through broken glass?" Another pause. When she spoke again, the sweetness was back. "Let me in and I'll tell you a story," she said. "How I killed Marcus. How I meant to do you. We can have proper closure." Behind me, the call timer on my mobile ticked past 40 seconds, long enough for Murphy to pick up, hear a few lines, realize what was happening. If she was awake, if she had her phone on, if Ashley switched tactics. There was a scraping, then the dull thud of her shoulder hitting the door. "Open it," she snapped. "Or I go round the front and the first person I knock for is your son." That did it. I unlocked the door and stepped back fast. She pushed her way in, bringing the night with her. Up close, the changes were obvious. She'd lost weight. The hoodie hung off her. Her face was waxy, eyes glittering, fever bright. The left sleeve of the hoodie was stained brown where the old blood from her shoulder had soaked through and dried. She smelt of sweat, damp clothes, and that sour tang of hospital that never quite goes away. In her right hand, down by her thigh, she held a scalpel. "Told you we'd circle back," she said, almost cheerfully. "I see you're still accessorizing with NHS equipment." I replied. The knife was at my side, point down. I wasn't brandishing it. Not yet. She looked around my kitchen. taking it in like she was planning where to hang pictures. It's smaller than I remember, she said. Funny that you build these places up in your head. Her gaze slid back to me. Where's Kevin? Not here. I lied. She smiled slowly. You're terrible at lying, she said. Your eyes always go left. She moved closer. I could see the strain of movement pulling at her stitches. The scalpel twitched in her grip. Here's the plan, she said conversationally. I nick you, not too deep, just enough to make you bleed, make you weak. Then I sit you down and we have a nice long talk while you fade. I'll tell you exactly what I did to Marcus, the way his skin went gray, the way his sister cried. And you can think about all the chances you had to keep quiet and be a good little widow instead of a hero. Sounds dull, I said. We've heard that show. You're repeating material. Her mouth tightened. You really can't help yourself. Can you? She said. Always the clever one. Always the commentary. Even now. That's the English teacher in me. I said. We analyze. Her eyes flicked to the knife in my hand, then back up. You're not going to use that, she said. If you were, you'd have done it when I came through the door. You're not a killer, Margaret. That's why you fascinate me. You've got the mind for it. You just lack follow through. That's one way of describing a conscience, I said. She laughed, genuinely amused. Oh, is that what you call it? She said. A conscience, darling. Your conscience is just cowardice with better PR. She took another step closer. The scalpel caught the light. A neat little triangle of death. You know what I think, she said softly. I think for all your drama, you're still banking on the police saving you. On Sarah Murphy swooping in with her little warrant card. How many patrols have we had tonight? Should we count? Every 34 minutes, I said. So you told me. Exactly. She purred. And this is number 27. They've done their little loop. They'll be texting their wives in the lay-by by now. No one's coming. You're very sure of that, I said. She lifted the scalpel. Just slightly, enough to make my pulse race. Because I've been watching you for months, she said. Long before the wine. Long before the cookies. You are spectacularly predictable, Margaret. It's your best and worst quality. My phone, still under the tea towel, crackled. A tiny shift in sound. Her gaze snapped towards it. What's that? She asked. I smiled. That, I said, is the bit you didn't factor in. Slowly, deliberately, I moved to the counter, keeping my movements smooth so I didn't spook her into lunging. I lifted the tea towel with my free hand. The screen glowed up call in progress. Tiny speaker icon ticked on. You've been talking to me, I said. I've been talking to an audience. Her face changed then. The confidence wobbled. You're bluffing, she said. You don't even know if she answered. I pressed the loudspeaker button. The kitchen filled with a faint hiss. Then Murphy's voice. Calm and amplified. I've heard every word. Ashley, she said. You're in Margaret Henderson's kitchen. Put the scalpel down. For a second, everything froze. Ashley's eyes darted to the doorway, to the hall, to the back window. Fight or flight, trying to pick a direction. You won't make it to the fence, I said quietly. Not with your shoulder. Not with the GPS tracker and that dressing. It wasn't true, of course, but she didn't know that. Her hand flew to her bandaged shoulder as if she could feel a device under the gauze. You're lying, she spat. You sure, I said. They put them in smaller things than you. Tagging you was the first sensible thing they did. You walked straight into a coordinate on a screen. Armed unit at the back door, ready, came a faint voice over Murphy's radio on the phone. On your word. Ashley backed towards the table, scalpel now shaking. You set me up, she whispered. Both of you. I raised the phone a little, like a microphone. You set yourself up, I said. You couldn't resist the performance. Murphy chose that moment to step into the doorway. Body armor on over jeans, taser in hand, 2 officers behind her with the solid, unhurried posture of people who know they're in control. Ashley Winters, she said, voice carrying that official snap I'd heard in interview rooms. You're under arrest for escape from lawful custody, assaulting a prison officer, and attempted murder. Put the weapon on the floor and step away. For a heartbeat, I thought Ashley would throw herself at me anyway. Try to carve one last line into my skin just to say she'd marked me. The hatred on her face was pure. No performance, no tears, just loathing. Then something in her seemed to sag. The adrenaline, the infection, the realization that the script had flipped for good, whatever it was. Her shoulders dropped. She let the scalpel clatter onto the laminate, raised her hands. As the officers pinned her arms and snapped the cuffs on, she twisted her head to look at me. You'll never feel safe again, she said. Conversational, almost gentle. Every creak, every shadow, every parcel left on your step. You'll think of me. That's my gift. Whether I'm behind bars or not, you'll live with me. I already live with you, I said. In my story, not yours. That's the difference. They walked her out past my fridge, magnets, and utility bills like she was nothing more than a difficult tenant being evicted. The front door opened. The front door shut. The engine started. The noise faded. For the first time in months, my house was mine again. 2 months later, on a mild Sunday, Kevin and I sat at my kitchen table with the window open, the radio burbling quietly about traffic on the M25. There was toast on a plate, jam smeared on the lid, a half-done crossword between us. Ordinary, boring, lovely. Appeal's over, Kevin said, scrolling his phone. They've upheld the whole life order, added years for escape and assault, but they said it's academic. I sipped my tea. She wanted to be clever. I said, in the end, she's just contained. He looked at me carefully. Do you still hear her sometimes, he asked. At night. Sometimes, I admitted, more as a cautionary tale than a ghost. She's the reason I double-check the chain. She's the reason I listen when something feels off. I'm all right with that. He picked at the crust of his toast. I feel like an idiot, he said quietly. I brought her here. I married her. You warned me and I didn't want to see it. Loving someone isn't idiocy, I said. Ignoring your gut for too long can be, we've both done it. The trick is what you do after you finally listen. He huffed a laugh. Trust Mum to turn attempted murder into a life lesson, he said. I'm very efficient. I said, ask Ashley. Later, when he'd gone back to his flat and the house was quiet again, I sat at the same table with my laptop open. The little webcam light glowed. My own face looked back at me on screen. Older, lined, but steady. Hello, you, I said, imagining just one person on the other side instead of thousands. If you've made it this far, you know more about my family than some of my neighbors. I told you, the bones of it, the wine, the spreadsheet, the pond, the kitchen, not as a horror story, but as a map, where I'd missed the signs, where I'd finally drawn a line. I'm not sharing this because I want sympathy. I said, I'm sharing it because women like Ashley rely on people like you and me being too polite to make a fuss. If your stomach twists when someone smiles at you, listen to it. If a gift feels wrong, pour it down the sink. You can always buy another bottle. You can't buy another life. I paused, fingers wrapped round my mug, watching the little red recording dot blink. And if any of this hit a nerve, I added, feel free to tell me in the comments. or pass it to that friend who keeps laughing off their too-good-to-be-true partner. The more we drag these stories into the light, the harder it is for people like her to hide. I didn't say Ashley's name on the channel. She doesn't get that. She gets a number and a prison roll, and 4 walls, and a future measured out in institutional tea. I get my house back, my son, my Sunday breakfasts, and this, my voice, in your ears. So if you take anything from an old woman who refused to die quietly for someone else's profit, let it be this: never be embarrassed to protect yourself. Even if people call you paranoid, especially then,